I want to talk to you about Afghanistan because you do not look jet lagged, frankly, but you're just back from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Qatar. So I know you're tired, but some of the issues you were looking at is the humanitarian disaster there, the failure by our government to continue to get Afghans out, the pace of refugee evacuations, and, what is happening with the Taliban. How do we help the people of Afghanistan? Okay.
Well, there are two different issues. There's good news on the evacuation front, and one of the things we learned, which was a surprise to me, a pleasant surprise, is that as of right now, there are 3 Americans who want to get out of Afghanistan who have not yet left, but we have good prospects of getting them out. We've gotten almost 1,000 American citizens and legal permanent residents out of Afghanistan since August 31st. Remember all the chest beating about we're leaving people behind and we're abandoning people. The truth is the evacuation of those people has continued. There are another 170 or so dual citizens who thus far have decided they want to stay in Afghanistan because that's where their families are, and they've made that decision. But the evacuation of American citizens and Afghans who assisted us has continued since August 31st, and a very large number have gotten out. Now, the other piece, though, that you allude to is there's a humanitarian crisis right on the horizon, and that is Afghanistan's a very tough place in the winter. The government has very little in the way of resources. Starvation is a serious prospect. And we've got to figure out how to get the humanitarian aid in there, get it to those children that you see on the screen right now without funneling it through the Taliban. That was one of the things that we discussed with the Pakistani officials when we were there over the weekend, and they're ready to help. This has to be an international proposition, and how we can do that with the Pakistanis and other non-governmental organizations, the UN and others. This is a very high priority right now. The guy you see me talking to is the Army Chief of Staff, who's one of the he's a major power broker in Pakistan, along with the Prime Minister, who we also met with on Saturday. And they tell me those guys never meet with people on Saturday, so we felt like maybe they wanted to see us.
Well, clearly they did. And I want to just correct myself because I was in error. You were not on the ground in Afghanistan. You were in Pakistan on the other side of the border dealing with the Afghan issue. So my apologies on that. But I just want to also say that it's beyond the U.S. citizens, that the groups that I am talking to are just heartbroken with the Afghan supporters, the human rights experts, the women who have been left behind in the numbers of thousands that the State Department has not been able to get out. I just want to say it's a continuing crisis.
That process is continuing, Andrea. That process is continuing. There are multiple flights a week into Qatar out of Afghanistan, which are full. I can't remember the number. It's about 800 a week. And there are also something like 12,000 in Pakistan that we're working on. In Pakistan, not in Afghanistan, and we're working through the paperwork on them. So, and you got to remember, 120,000 were gotten out before August 31st, the largest airlift in history. I'm not saying everything is rosy or hunky-dory, but I'm saying it's better than has been represented recently, particularly with regard to Americans. But clearly the plight of women over there and what the Taliban is going to do with regard to their harsh treatment and education and those things are things that we have to continue to work on. The Taliban is flat on their back financially. They need our help. They need international help. And hopefully that can be a path to moderating their anti-human rights behavior.
You would unfreeze the assets?
Well, that's a complicated question. It turns out the September 11th victims have attached those assets in the U.S., so even if we unfroze them, I'm not sure the courts would allow them to leave. But one possibility I've been discussing is if we can unfreeze those assets, but strictly earmark them for humanitarian aid, not general aid to the Taliban. I don't think that should be the case, but there's plenty of work to be done in Afghanistan outside of what the Taliban is up to.
Well, on all of it, thank you very much. Thanks for the work you're doing overseas.